Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to WCS Winter Americas. We are going to be moving into our second series for the Americas division. My name is Fear Dragon. I am joined here by Nathanius, the most American person we could find. How's it going?
The most Americas.
The most Americas person we could find. Represents all of the Americas a little bit.
Yes.
Spends a lot of time in Australia.
Yes. My grandmother lives in Sydney. I dream about going to Sao Paulo. I have some friends from Singapore, and of course, I live in the greatest country there is.
Amazing. And of course, we do have our next match getting started on up very, very soon. It's going to be a Protoss versus Terran. I'm really looking forward to this one. I think both of these guys are pretty damn solid. Future being the kind of American hope, the Terran player that a lot of people have had their eyes on in the North American scene as this guy who's crazy good. He's able to beat players like Special and Puck and a lot of the other NA hard hitters at Cheesadelphia. And a lot of people are waiting to see how he's going to do in WCS Winter. How's he going to finally do in those WCS events now?
Yeah, very excited to see. And he has been, I think, a player that is like, you know, like many NA players, you kind of see them come up as a bit of a spark, and you're like, yeah. And I think like people are talking about him and Epic is which of these players is going to come out as like an NA hopeful, right? Who's coming up? And you kind of hope that the other NA players that have been successful can give them that inspiration to work hard and continue to climb. You know, Scarlet, Neeb, as NA gets a tough rap. It gets a tough rep. People don't respect players enough. I don't think people don't respect the server enough. But one day, that'll all change, and we will have our day in the sun, Fear Dragon.
Well, Future was telling me he hopes that he can rep NA well. Probe, of course, from Australia. He is currently in California, though, so he's not going to be dealing with the usual ping issues a lot of the time you end up seeing players have to deal with. But let's jump into game number 1. Introduce the players. As we start down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, top of that red American Terran player, he is Future. Infinity Gaming.
Good amount of people hoping he'll be the future of NA.
I just realized he's spawning as red. He's got blue and white in the logo. There's some red, white, and blue right there.
Oh, what a hero. His opponent in the top left, our blue Protoss player, hailing from Australia. He's Probe.
Probe, a guy who's gotten some decent results, especially for the Australian scene at some of these WCS events. Most notably, I think, was a while ago at a WCS Valencia in 2017.
Well, he's super competitive. He goes everywhere, and I'm mostly aware of this because I've actually gotten to hang out with Probe quite a bit in airports.
He's a very fun guy.
I've got to hang out with him a bunch because it's such a. We used to joke about how Maynard has to make and Pig make these insane flights to go cast like StarCraft events. But they mostly connect through Los Angeles with basically wherever they're going. So I'm like, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going back to LA. I'm like, where are you going? He's like, going to Sydney, but I got to go to LA first because nowhere else will get me there. I'm like, that is unfortunate. How long is that going to take you? About 20 hours. I'm like,
Yeah, it's amazing sometimes when they go to these events. I'm like, so you just haven't played StarCraft for like 3 weeks because it took you 3 weeks to fly here, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, the plane Wi-Fi is not quite up to snuff yet.
Yeah.
But
Probe's had some bad luck lately. He actually is tweeting he chipped his tooth. He actually spent the entirety of yesterday just dealing with his chipped tooth situation and stuff and trying to get that looked at, etc. So
I think playing StarCraft is more important than your...
You know, some would say...
If you had a WCS group the next day, maybe.
Some would say that if you just prepare for your group, you'll get the money you need to fix that chipped tooth.
I guess. That's one way of putting it.
That's one way of spending those $12,000.
Whenever something bad happens to me or Roddy, I know the first thing we're like is, can we cast anything? You know, that's the next step. The first step, excuse me.
Twilight Council, by the way, on the way here for Probe. Probe, while he absolutely is a player that will go for the standard kind of style in most of his games, he is also one of those players that I actually really appreciate as being someone who loves experimenting and playing around with some new kind of stuff and sort of, I guess, creating his own pathway in different matchups sometimes. And I think he's actually even brought some of the builds that became like the standard in the meta back into the meta some number of years ago. I'm trying to think of the names of some of them, like some of the charge lot builds. I know he kind of popularized a little bit.
Yeah. I'm interested to see if he does the aggressive blink this game, as we know in most Protoss players these days, you're feeling that blink, right? It's cheap, it's good, gives you that map control, and also makes your Stalkers so much better at defending as well as attacking. But right now we're just seeing this net starport, so the Widowmine drop seems likely. That means very late stim, which makes these blink Stalkers, I think, even more terrifying than they originally were.
Yeah, interestingly though, Future kind of moving very aggressively forward with those Marines, trying to snipe off the Adept that might be trying to move a bit too far forward, but Probe just pulls it back. Now, I know that Future put in a ton of preparation work for today's games. He was talking about some of the players that he's been practicing with and stuff, and it's been an impressive list. We'll see what he's been able to come up with in a matchup that we've already talked about. Some Terran players have been having a bit of a hard time with. Koss put up a good fight, but wasn't able to ultimately make it out of his group. Future gonna want to turn that around.
Yeah, it's one of those things that a lot of people have been discussing lately. It's a heated subject, the Terran versus Protoss situation, but at best these players can do right now is just try to win with the tools they have available to them and keep a level head, I think, which may have a bigger impact than anything balance related, to be honest with you. Going into the game with a defeatist mental attitude, certainly not an appropriate way to handle a competitive match.
Absolutely. Well, we do have a pretty quick third coming down from Probe, and he's just going to be sitting back more defensively with those Stalkers, preparing for any kind of drop harassment or anything that could be coming on in, and that's actually a pretty good read. He doesn't exactly see the factory, doesn't have a tech lab or sea checks or anything coming out, but he does pretty much anticipate that there is going to be Widowmines, and he sees a Widowmine in the middle of the map. That's also a pretty good reveal.
Yep, that's a great grab there. Double Forge on the way, by the way. I love that Probe is doing this. Like I was talking about, this is one of the biggest strengths that Protoss has. It's not just having the 3 Nexus, it's also having the Forges to dump those Chrono Boosts onto, because that third base gets saturated so fast for Toss. Look at that. He comes out to bait the mine because he knew about it. And guess what? Stim is only just underway. So there is huge potential for the Stalkers to just come in, snip, snip, come out. Boom.
Yep. Future already losing another one of these Widowmines. Snipes off the Observer, though.
Great snipe on the Observer. Extremely important. You know, the time that he spent dealing with that mine was exactly what Future needed to go grab that, and now he's got the bunker. I don't think there's another Observer nearby, no. So
nope.
He's gonna...
No high ground vision for a bit.
He saved himself a potentially game-losing scenario there.
Yeah, that... As we've seen already today, that's
watching Gung Fu Bandit do it twice to cast, it broke something inside of him.
I feel like at that point, this is where you just start saying, I'm going to build my barracks really far deep into my main base. I'm not going to keep those tech labs anywhere near the natural.
That's what you should do. It's one of the things, like, maybe a little bit more justifiably Terrans complain about would be like, if you spawn in the top left on this map as Terran, your add-ons are just more exposed by default. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a little bit. Sniped off Hallucinating Phoenix, that is nice, and we're going to see Future start to make his way across the map. Now the Stalkers are going to try and do their best to buy time, pick off individual Marines, see what damage they can get done. There's a lot of Zealots warped in, and Charge is about to finish up. This is a pretty scary defensive force here for Probe. I don't know if Future is going to be able to break this, but if he gets there set up in time, gets some good Widowmine hits, it is possible.
Yep. All right, let's see it. Mines are coming up. Gonna start to burrow. There's the force fields, pinching off a decent bit of this army. Picks up the Marauders in the front. I like that. Mines do splash across a lot of the Zealots. I don't know if there's enough energy for another Guardian Shield. That's very big. 2 Observers over the army, too.
Oop.
Yeah, one of them.
Yeah. Gonna get the snipe off on those. Widowmine does get a good hit on those Zealots, but it looks like the Bioforce has been willed down a little too much. He's gonna be able to escape out of there alive with the Medivacs, or at least it seems that way, but might be losing a few more of these Bio units. Tries to move back to the reinforcements, using that high ground.
Yeah, really nice grab there. But not really getting the economic damage done. And if we look, Future's still just on 2 bases. So Probe has time on his side. He's going to get that 2-2 now. Starting to chrono boost that, I'd hope. And that's really, like I said, that's where the strength of Protoss comes in. Is you're holding off these attacks with your gateway units. You're getting a lot of upgrades for them. And having that Immortal mixed in, really nice. Guardian Shield, we did a great job of handling it, but now this Protoss force just gets more and more terrifying.
Absolutely nuts about this Observer production. He's already lost 2, but he's going up to another 3 now as the third one's about to finish up. So he has full vision of this army for pretty much the entirety of this game. Stalkers can blink on top of these Liberators if they try and siege up, and they do, and they are both going to get picked off without getting too much damage on. Widow Mines do connect with a lot of the Zealots. The frontline buffer is gone for Pro, but I mean the damage output for Future is pretty much gone as well.
I really would like to see a second factory with this type of composition from Future. I think being able to keep your mines alive, if you can get rid of the observers, is super important. It allows you to kind of put them around the map a lot more effectively. See, scans there, which is a bit odd to me, because that observer is not going to die. But the Marauders are having such a hard time stemming the flow of this Protoss army.
Yep, Marauders finally having to pull back. They did get a pick off on a handful of the sentries, I think, as well as some, not just the Zealots, but I think you might have been able to kill off one Immortal. Yeah, one Immortal. You can see it's mostly just 33 Zealots that have died. That is the majority of the forces.
Those are not your expensive units, right? So able to do very well so far. Here is Probe. 2-2
oh boy.
Is finishing, and you're going to have 2-2 versus 1-1. Not fun.
Nope.
Is there an armory?
There is an armory finishing up.
It's not done yet. If he immediately goes into 3-3 and starts chronoing that, this game never gets easier.
This
becomes painful. Here we go.
Fourth base on the way for Probe as well. And like you said, 3-3 is going to be so difficult for Future to deal with if this game goes on for another minute and a half or 2 minutes.
Well, he needs to like get the upgrades immediately when the armory is done. Like he starts 2-2 now. He needs it now. There we go.
Yep. Starting it up. At least starting up +2 weapons. Still needs to get up the armor, and there it is.
Armor. Okay. You can't. So the thing is, with Chrono Boost, if he continuously Chrono Boosts those upgrades, the extra time that the level 3 upgrades take is mitigated by that. So he will be even upgrades no matter what, or ahead on those 2 upgrades, excuse me, no matter what, until the Terran finally gets 3-3, which at this point is very far away in the context of this game.
Yeah. Very Marauder-heavy composition here for Future, and so many Widow Mines.
Yeah, I like it with the mines. I mean, you can get away with building more Marauders if you have a lot of mines.
Yeah.
Because the mines should deal with the Zealots. I still think that if you're going to build this many mines, it's worth it 100% to get a second factory just for Drilling Claws. Drilling Claws is really good. Your opponent is building plenty of Zealots. Keeping your mines alive after a fight can save you an insane amount of resources, as well as potentially get more unit pickoffs and allow you to reinforce yourself.
Now, Future does know, I think with the scan he saw one of the gas guys on the low ground, so he should know that the 4th base has been taken there for Probe. Probe, once again, has multiple observers kind of covering the map, has great map vision between those, the Zealots, the pylons, just everything. Makes it so difficult for Future to get a run-by done with a drop in the corner or something, so he's got to go with the frontal push, but in fact, it's Probe that's at his front door with 2-2 finished up and 3-3 seconds away from finishing.
Yep.
Dangerous spot.
Like I was saying, that 3-3 lines up with 2-2, even started at the same time because of that chrono boost. So we have tons of SCVs getting ripped to pieces in the 3rd base. Army's got to come help deal with this. There's most of your economy from the 3rd gutted. Liberators are going to siege. Templar come out of the Prism, raining storms across the Bio Army.
Yeah, a couple of goats come in from the high ground, but they are going to be a bit late to throw out those EMPs, and it's difficult too because when are you going to actually throw out the EMPs? The High Templars are all loaded up in the Warp Prism, so they're going to be able to survive. You can't directly EMP them. A couple of probes did go down on the other side of the map thanks to, I think, like a Liberator or something. But those all get cleaned up. Whatever the harassment force was, it gets cleaned up. Future makes his push across the map as a Zealot still works away at some of his production. This has got to effectively be a game-ending push here for Future.
Yep, he needs to win it right here with this attack if he's going to do it. Widow Mines are going to hit a couple of the Zealots up front immediately. That bio, though, look at it, mostly in the yellow-orange health for a lot of these units. Every stim taking away 20% of the Army's life.
Tries the EMP, the Observer doesn't quite get it. One of the medevacs and now sitting at no energy left over. Storm comes down. The
oh, God. Oh.
And that's all she wrote. GG. Probe takes the first game.
Man, Probe just absolutely crushed it there.
He's looking good.
He dunked on him, man. They went to play pickup basketball. He had the Michael Jordan shoes from that one movie, and he schooled him.
I'm always a little bit worried when I get to see Probe because we definitely sometimes see Probe not looking to be in top form. And I'm so happy that's not actually today. Probe is looking good. He's definitely been one of the hot, cold players out there. But I'm excited. He's looking really, really strong today.
Yeah, I mean, played very well. I love his build. I love it. I mean, fast blink with the Observer, double forge after the third,
Yeah.
tons of gateway units, and then I do like that he goes into Storm. Like, you get the Colossi at the very end. When you get your opponent to commit to, like, Ghosts or that many Widow Mines, then you start building the Colossi. I feel like the Colossi are too easy of a target early on. Like, when we look at the way that Disc played here, I think, like, if he had used a similar strategy, he could have had a similar result. Like, that army is just so hard to beat. And like I said, 3-3 for the Protoss started at the same time as the Terrans 2-2. But with the Chrono Boost, it's 20 seconds, 50% faster. He was able to get those upgrades to line up, and at no point could Future recover in terms of that deficit.
I mean, Future, as we talked about before, was committed to making that big damage happen off the 2-base push that he did after Probe had been securing his third, and just not being able to break him or really being able to get a whole lot done there, just killing off Zealots. That's really what just set him behind for the entire game. So all the upgrades and everything else, that's all just because Probe got away with that faster third base, going unpunished, and also getting up the double forges and everything. It's all kind of icing on the cake at that point.
Yep, that's why those attacks are so important, because that's what really opens up the opportunity for you as a Terran player to knock down the third. You grab a couple of the army, you do your tank push, but never got close.
It's tough. But here we go. We're moving into Cyber Forest for game number 2. We'll see whether or not Future can turn this around. Again, I know he said that he had a lot of preparation work done, especially for Probe, for the Terran player time as well. So I know he wants to be able to show it, but he's got to win this game if he wants to face off against time, or at least guarantee a face-off there.
Yep, we'll see what he can do. It's not going to be easy, though, Fear Dragon. Not going to be easy at all, as we are loaded in to map number 2. In the bottom right, we have our blue Protoss player, the Australian representative. He is Probe.
Legacy Esports, Australian team that Probe is pretty proud to be on. Top left-hand corner of the map, we have our red Terran player. He is Future, Infinity Gaming. 16 years old, turned 16, I think around March or so of last year. Still in high school. A lot of promise for this guy.
Nice.
Okay.
I wasn't this good at StarCraft in high school.
I think in high school I had just learned that you need to make more than 4 workers in Brute War.
Yeah. What? StarCraft 2 came out in 2010, summer of 2010, right? So that would have been going into my senior year. Yeah, it would have been.
Wow.
My senior year of high
my
school.
God.
I definitely missed a lot of homework playing StarCraft. But to be honest with you, I didn't play any ranked. I didn't play like almost any ranked the first year, man. You ever play Minerals? That's a great arcade map.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. I have not played that one. Saw that one. I used to play. I mean, the classic Rainer
Storm of
Party.
the Imperial Sanctum? No.
You ever play Star Jeweled?
No. No, I haven't played Star Jewel.
I used to.
I have a phone for those games.
Back in my like college days, I had to have my CSL team, and I was so bad compared to the rest of my team, because they were all like decent. I would say in today's standards, they'd probably be like all around Masters 2 to Masters 1 or so.
Yeah.
They were all decent players, and I was sitting there in Diamond or something. So I was just sitting there, and I was like, well, the one thing I'm better at them than is Star Jeweled. So I just keep challenging them to Star Jeweled.
Yeah. When I played in CSL, I mostly played on the 2v2 team. We did have one guy at Penn State who was top 200, which in 2012 was pretty impressive. He was very good.
That's awesome, yeah.
He carried us very far until we had to play like Purdue or like Berkeley or whatever, and then we just got gobsmacked.
And Purdue was my team, so yeah, it feels good.
Just want you to know I hate you, Fear Dragon.
Dude, we had some dirty players. Oh man, Probe.
He's got
this
2 extra probes on his cache.
He did this last game too.
Did he take this from Alpha Star? No.
If you oversaturate, no. Well, Twilight Council on the way. Probe is going for a pretty standard looking opening, but it is in fact Future who's mixing things up a little bit.
I like this. We've already seen this today. It's the Hellions with the proxy medevac. Don't phase me, bro.
Got him. That is absolutely worth it.
Yep, that's really. It's a big delay.
Yep.
That's a big delay.
I think that, yeah.
Delay is next couple Hellions, actually.
Worth noting that, again, no Reaper opening here from Future, so.
Can't build. Can he? Okay, he barely can.
He didn't bother to scout at
There's
all.
the command center. It's done. All right.
Yeah. Command center finishes up. Well, it's going to be the Hellion drop coming out.
Yep. And there's Blink coming in, though. So this is another one of those builds when we talk about the change to Warp Gate. Really heavily buffs against these builds because that Warp Gate finishing just that little bit faster gives you just that extra 14 seconds where you don't have to be as vulnerable as you would have previously been to that type of drop play. So let's see. Seeing those Hellions, really, really important because the Adept will die, but at the expense of a lot of good information, and one of the Hellions being injured helps a lot too.
It really does. If you're able to kill off 2 of the Hellions, those Hellions are no longer one-shotting the workers anymore, so it does require multiple shots to actually kill the probes.
So normally Warp Gate would not be ready for this, but it is now. So these Hellions are going to run by the natural. Stalkers are here to try and fight as it does a run by. It was a fake out with the medevac.
I love that.
Then the warp into the main base.
Yeah, not really getting too many workers, though, in this wall, and also making it a bit more complicated for the Hellions. He's trying to do the back and forth, he's juking and jiving. But the longer he does this...
Well, Blink's almost ready, right?
Yep.
So that's another benefit of Blink being so cheap, squeezing it in that early with the robotics facility, too. He's got everything he needs once he holds this off, and he has held this extremely well so far. Really only takes one Hellion shot to change everything, though.
Yep, gets into the natural. A few more of these Hellions going to be able to kill off a few more probes. Oh, these are the juicy hits he wanted.
He got to the magic number. He got to the eight probe kill number.
That makes it okay, right? It's not amazing, but it's
considering
good.
how long it took to get it done. Like probe is still ahead, the 4 or so workers, but now because you kill those workers, that's how Terran gets the income lead. Like Terran, you need to get that damage done early versus Protoss. It's just the way that it's meant to be played right now. Where if you look at the income, now it's starting to be a little bit more even, a little bit favoring Terran because he was able to get.
Oh no!
Snipes the
siege tank. That is a really big pick off there, and suddenly this becomes a lot more difficult and annoying to try and defend against. You can see the Future is definitely respecting this. He's pulling his workers because he knows that bunker is effectively the thing keeping him alive right now versus a massive number of Stalkers just showing up at his front door.
Yep. Now, mind you, Double Forge is on the way. The third base is almost done. I think a Liberator just went to the main and got blown to pieces.
Yep. Don't think it killed any workers either.
Nope. So here we are once again looking at this awkward spot. Stalker's blinking to the main, by the way.
Yep, finding opportunity to pick off a couple of these Marines. The Cyclone is going to be helpful, but it gets focus fired down. Doesn't quite die. The probe is still finding some really good damage here. This is so frustrating as a Terran player.
He could just kill him here if he micros well enough. Those Marines can't do too much. The Cyclone finally picked off. All right, there he gets some bad trades. I was going to say, it's like, he's going to cancel my stim. Joke's on you, I haven't started stim.
Yeah, I think a couple of Stalkers trying to walk their way in to help out their brethren, but the Siege Tank shutting that down. Third Command Center finish up here for Future. So it definitely looked a little bit dicey there, and he is still going to have to deal with some potential Stalker.
Go back in. There's no reason not to. There's nothing up here. And you're outside the vision of Terran as well, so you just wait for Blink to be off cooldown, and then poke again. Oh my god, look at this tank. Look at this tank!
It's dead!
Oh my goodness, all of my oofs.
Oh! 2 Stalkers miss blinking. They are going to try and buy a little bit of time here, as they also get some extra scouting information, but that is definitely a little bit of a mistake.
Yeah. Oh goodness, what an awkward spot to be in. He's going to see that.
He's buying a lot of time with Stalkers.
This is where Stim is. I think running into the Marauder, he like accepts that he's not getting away, because I do think, it's like, all right. So Stim is on the way. Still not going to be able to kill that this game, so no threat there. But look, Charge is on the way, 1-1. I love that Probe is doing this. I think this is the best way to play Protoss versus Terran. At least, when I play Protoss, I love doing this as well. It feels really good to have the upgrade advantage versus Terran. Because it's really hard for Terran to afford all the tech that they need and those upgrades simultaneously. So,
wow, even taking a 4th base right now, Probe.
Yeah, why not?
Really confident.
Third saturated, why not? And he's mostly just mining minerals. Because he's like, I'm just going to crank out an absurd number of Zealots with all this economy that I have. There we go, 5 more being warped in.
Yep. This is... We got to see that push out from Future maybe in the next minute or 2, right? After he finishes up Stim and Comet Shields.
He's going to be really down in upgrades if he doesn't do something soon, because 2-2 is now coming in as the +1 is done for Probe.
All right, sniping off an Observer there. That is a nice pick off. Stalkers just getting some scouting information in the center of the map, and none of these units actually have any medevacs with them just yet, so they are taking some time to get healed up. Future walking straight underneath the Observer. He does spot it out though, snipes that off.
It's a good grab, but now he knows. He's going to be keeping his eyes on that 4th base.
Oh my god, this starboard is still just in the center of the map making more medevacs.
Modern problems require modern solutions, Fear Dragon.
Well, 4th base is undefended, and with a stim forward here from Future, he could maybe get enough damage done to it, but no, he's going to back off. Has way too many Zealots. The Widowmine's actually not participating in the fight until now. We finally start to see one
He
go
pulled
off.
SCVs with this, too. Like, he's really committed to this attack. But going up this ramp would be surely a big mistake.
Oh,
God!
Lord. There's no escape.
It's like the meat grinder. Well, the tank's covered in the back, but I think at this point now, the Immortals should be able to focus fire it. They get it. And now you just wait, get the next big Zealot warp in. Look how much money Probe has. Being able to reinforce this is so important. He is pulling probes. He realizes how desperate this is. Wants the probes to maybe soak up a few of the shots. I guess right now his problem is warp gate cooldown. He has 8 gates, but I guess it's not enough to reinforce.
I think it's still going to be enough. Even with the probes, of course, they are going to die, but he's getting so much damage done. The Medevac's having to back off. The Stalker's blinking on forward. The Immortals do so much damage to Marauders.
His 2-2 is almost ready as well. I hope he's...
Oh, here are the rest of the boys. A Zealot actually spots us out, so Probe has a little bit more time to react as well. He has more sentries available for more force fields, and that is exactly what he's going to be doing. Segments off a couple of these workers.
Well, mine gets the Observer there, but yeah, drags that shot back. And I think with +2 armor being done now things start to get really rough. Yeah. Now the Zealots get insane amounts of tankiness. The SCVs are going to have a hard time killing anything too. There's the next warp in, and Probe is going to barrel his way through this Terran army, through the Terran defenses. GG! Probe takes the 2-0 here in our second match of Americas.
Really, really well done. Just clean play from Probe. Game number 1 had some fantastic scouting information, was able to react and kind of do the quick follow-up there off of just defending. And then game number 2, same sort of thing. The Stalkers got a lot of damage done, but even on top of that, all of his follow-ups were just all there on time. He had really good scouting information again.
Yeah, just really good play, honestly. I love the build Probe used. I love the way he controlled his units. Great use of Blink Stalkers, great use of the Observers. Key emphasis on the upgrades, always huge in Protoss versus Terran. It's the #1 place where Protoss can get an advantage, is using that Chrono Boost to get the probes and then to get the upgrades.
Absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that does mean that Probe moves on to face-off versus Time, and that's going to be fun because I know I had a little bit of an argument, and so did Zombie Grub, with In Control on whether or not Chinese scene is stronger than the Australian StarCraft 2 scene. So I am super excited for that showdown. But
Can't wait.
Of course, that also means that the 2 Americans are going to be facing an elimination match to see who gets a chance to move on to that decider match a little bit later on. Nate, any thoughts?
Nope.
Excited for the next match?
I'm just so excited for you, Dragon.
Okay. Well, we are going to be going to the lower bracket match first. That, again, is going to be Disc versus Future. And following that up, we're going to be moving to Time versus Probe. Before we go to a decider match to close out the day, we'll see you guys with more StarCraft action